The committee on the whole is called back to order. Ranking Member Muñoz Barnes, you recognize? You had the floor last.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I really want to thank the Oversight Chair for giving the opportunity for us to go into a recess so that we could look at the pending amendment, and I want to share that the Oversight Chair on Health and I have communicated, and that she will proffer an amendment to address the concerns we talked about as it relates to making sure that the services and the MOU that the hospital and the Department of Corrections had, that program will stay in place, and the funding source will be delineated on what specific actions are needed for the program to provide for the services for those inmates. So thank you, and I will yield back to you so that you can address the Oversight Chair on Health for the proper amendment.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Senator Matanani, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madam Ranking Member, for working together on this issue. So I move to withdraw my initial amendment to proffer another.
Okay, so you're going to withdraw the amendment, the SB 44 SSML 18 P40, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a motion to withdraw the amendment that was proffered. Any objections? No objections? Senator Matanani, you're recognized.
Okay. So my new amendment addresses the concerns that were raised by some of my colleagues regarding how I am taking $3.6 million from the Department of Corrections and moving it to the Guam Memorial Hospital as it relates to the clinic and the services that GMH provides. Again, we're redirecting the $3.6 million appropriation directly to GMH to ensure that the funds are allocated efficiently and used specifically for the hospital needs. It bypasses potential delays or misallocations within the Department of Corrections budget, ultimately removing an unnecessary bureaucratic process which involves DOC as a pass-through agency. Do you need me to read through the entire new amendment?
Yes, so that there's
Okay.
just no misunderstanding or confusion.
The
Thank
new
you.
amendment to amend on line 18, page 40, section 3, part 1, Guam Memorial Hospital Authority, chapter 3, Health, of the bill to read, section 3, general fund appropriation, the sum of $19.1 million, $1 million that's strike through, and then added $22,771,152 is appropriated from the general fund to GMHA for its operational expenses and providing health services to inmates. Then it goes on to delete 5N of chapter 5 on page 76 of the bill to read. It just crosses out that entire section number 5.
Okay, and just to re-clarify, that's $22,771,152, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes, and allow for technical changes.
Okay. On the amendment, anyone wish to speak on the amendment as proffered?
Thank you.
Ranking Member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Vice Speaker, for allowing this proffered amendment by the Oversight Chair on Health, as it delineates and properly provides what the funding sources will be utilized for, and providing health services to the inmates. So thank you very much. I thank the Oversight Chair and truly appreciate this amendment and will support the effort. Senamus.
Thank you, Ranking Member Barnes. Anyone else on the amendment? Senator Gumitauta, you're recognized.
Yes, real quickly, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of the amendment as a chairman on public safety in working with the chairman on health and in discussions with the Department of Corrections in terms of ensuring that the money that is needed to provide these services to inmates, this amendment can do that. And again, I am in support of the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Gumatauto. Any other colleagues? Senator Terlahi, you're recognized, ma'am.
Zitos Masi, yes, I support the amendment as well, and I'm glad DOC has no problem with it going directly to GMH, and that this will be more convenient, I guess, and conducive to GMH. But I think in the end, the balance in the bill that GMH is going to avail itself of, it's going to be the same, and we're just still not addressing the 28 million shortfall for their payroll, the 29.3 million short for their CIP projects, and the 25 million accounts payable that they have today and that they predict that they might have in the future as well. In the beginning of FY2026. So, but I do support this amendment, and I guess since we have the panel here, if I could just ask them, other funding sources to support GMH. As we've gone along in the budget, do you see any?
I don't see any, ma'am. I think the body's already taken FY25 excess revenues for Simon Sanchez for a rainy day fund deposit and augmenting the funding for the Guam Cancer Care. So other than that, I don't see anything else.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Senator Terlahi. Senator Barnett, you're recognized, sir.
Hey, Zitos Masi, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to the people of Guam. Happy Monday, and thanks for joining us here in this great budget session. I don't necessarily have any objection to the amendment, sir, but I just did want to note for the record that it seems like a wash to me, because when you talk to Director Berdallo, and I spoke to him about this amendment, he said, oh, we give him the money anyways. Mr. Byrne, I don't think you said there was a problem with it, but I agree, and I'm not sure if the intent of this amendment is to kind of front load the Department of Corrections and these funds so that the Guam Memorial Hospital can have some kind of flexibility in using. We heard last night that, and similar to GDOE, they're in a position where they're using different pots of funding that may be labeled this way, but they're using it that way just to kind of deal with their cash flow problems. So this doesn't add anything to the Guam Memorial Hospital's bottom line. And I think in discussions with GMH, it is again, the ugly head of this BPT reduction is again rearing its head, because we're in this conversation where we have the schools, we have the hospitals coming in and saying that they're significantly short, that this budget will significantly impact critical public services, and we simply don't have the means to address these very significant challenges that our people are going to have to end up dealing with, because we've decided to prioritize not the schools, not the hospital, not the tax refunds, but the big, huge corporate payoff for the biggest of the biggest businesses. And that's what this budget process is coming back to every single day, every single chapter that we discuss. These agencies are coming in here and they're telling us that they need significant investments in funding so that they don't not maintain the status quo, but so that they don't decline in the services that are supposed to be available, that we're obligated to provide for the people of Guam. And so I cannot sit silent without mentioning this, that these large sums of money that we're talking about that these agencies need, whether it's the Guam Department of Education or the Guam Memorial Hospital, I mean, these are big numbers, and the biggest number of this budget, the priority, the first thing that this body decided to take care of was that 0.5% reduction in the BPT and another 0.5% reduction in the next fiscal year. So that's $80 million in revenues off the table. And these revenues aren't going to fund pet projects or Wild Wild West shootouts. They're funding basic public services, like the public schools, like the public hospital. And so thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to just remind the people of Guam the only reason why we're engaging in this desperate conversation about providing funding to critical public services is because the first move in this budget session was to make sure that the biggest of the big businesses ate, while our critical public services are very clear in telling us that not only are they starving, but we're going to be down to bare bones, and this budget's going to cut way too deep and impact many critical public services, Mr. Chair. So Sidus Masi for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Senator Barnett. Anyone else on the amendment? Senator Matanani, you'd like to close on your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to address some of the concerns that were raised, just in particular about whether or not the amendment is in conformance with the existing MOU between DOC and GMH. I did speak with the Guam Memorial Hospital. It is in compliance with the MOU. Also, on page 2 of the 2016 Consolidated Cooperative Agreement, MOU between GMH and DOC, Section 4, it does state, Part B, that the party shall work with the Governor's Office and the Legislature to provide an annual appropriation to GMH for dental services, nursing services, physician services, medical supplies, dental supplies, health record supplies, and administrative fees for services rendered and medical, dental, and health record supplies provided hereunder to DOC, the DOC clinic, based on each previous year's actual cost, and that GMH be paid in advance for these services. So again, we've spoken with GMH, and the Oversight Chair on Public Safety has confirmed with DOC that this amendment is proper. So I humbly ask for my colleagues' support. Thank you.
Sidus Masi, Senator Mantanani. Sure. The BBMR chair would like to make a comment.
So thank you for that, Senator Matanani. So the agreement is predicated on quarterly payments, and in the agreement that you have, you're going to be taking $3,600,000, and disbursements, if I recall correctly, are October, January, maybe March and July or something like that. So they will be making requests to Mr. Byrne to be able to draw. It'll be more direct, but it'll still be on a quarterly disbursement.
Thank you. Mr. Carlson.
Sidus Masi. So on the Mantanani amendment, are there any objections? Seeing and hearing none, amendment passes. Colleagues, we are on the next amendment. This amendment is SSM L22 P40, and this amendment is proffered by Senator Mantanani. You may proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment is actually something I noticed in the governor's budget submission. GMH, as we've heard over the past 2 days, faces significant challenges, not just this fiscal year, but in recent years, including repeated IT server downtimes that have disrupted hospital operations and negatively impacted patient care. These incidents, widely reported in the news, have highlighted the urgent need for infrastructure improvements to ensure uninterrupted services. For example, server outages have delayed patient records access, disrupted scheduling, and hindered the timely delivery of care, putting both patients and staff in difficult and potentially dangerous situations. Recognizing the importance of addressing these challenges, the legislature in Guåhan, in adopting the fiscal year 2022 Budget Act, allocated $35 million as an initial bond repayment amount for the construction of a new hospital. However, no such bond has been executed to date, leaving this substantial allocation unspent. While the administration continues to explore grants and funding opportunities for the construction of a new hospital, GMHA's financial condition remains critical, and its operational challenges, including IT infrastructure failures, demand immediate attention. These unused funds present an opportunity to provide urgent financial relief to GMH, addressing its operational deficiencies and ensuring the continuity of essential healthcare services. Therefore, it is the intent of this amendment to reappropriate the $35 million originally set aside for bond repayment to GMHA. This reallocation will address critical IT and capital improvement needs and support its mission of delivering quality health care to the people of Guam. I will also add, Mr. Chair, a lot of it's been said on the floor about who is running for governor. But what about who is the governor right now?
What I would do as governor is I will first
Point of
give
order, Mr.
the
Chair.
funding that
Point of order, Mr.
GMH
Chair.
needs. They need the $30 million.
Yes,
Give them the
please
$30 million.
state your point of order.
What's going on right now?
We're playing a video as requested by the author.
She didn't request that off the body, sir.
I
Maybe
believe it
she
was-
should
I believe it-
identify what the video is and
Sure.
let us know so the public knows what's going on in here.
Sure,
What's being played
Senator-
on the screen, and
Sure.
maybe it should be made by motion.
Senator, do you yield? I'm
And point of order,
Ye-
Mr.
ye-
Chair.
yes.
I didn't want to interrupt her, but this amendment is number 6. We're only on the second amendment. It was already withdrawn by the clerk because they substituted it, so it came back in and the place, as according to your rules, as where it should have been, which is amendment number 6 for the GMH chapter.
Yes, there was a error on that, and it was the original amendment that was proffered. It was one's going to be substituted, but it was not substituted.
Well, the clerks pulled it out of our packets right
They
before the
did.
break, and then
Yeah, they did, but
you're
that was
putting
an
it
error.
magically back in again.
They did, but that was an error, and they'll tell you that was an error. Yeah. So, Senator Montanani, do you yield
To
to the question of what's being played?
the video that is being
Yeah, yeah.
played is a campaign promise that was made in the 2018 election when specifically asked by the Filipino community of Guam during one of their debates about the problems and the issues and how would you fix it at the Guam Memorial Hospital. That's what that video is.
Yes.
Yes, so my
And in that video, she specifically talks about the 2 priorities. If she were governor, because we've had colleagues here on the floor talking about, oh, look at all of you guys running for governor. So I'm saying, what about the governor that we have right now? And what did she say she was going to do if she was elected? And when GMH came in here, they were talking about the electrical panel. That is number 1, their IT network. They need that repaired because they need to be able to build, to collect. And so that's what's in that video. She's making the case why we need this $35 million now.
Mr. Chair, point
Yes,
of order.
Senator.
I have no qualms with any person on the floor trying to debate anything or represent anything that has been said in the public. But if we're going to allow videos, that's to me an extraordinary measure to allow videos during our debate time. And I think that should be something that's adopted by the body because
Mr. Chair,
I've
I
never
cleared
seen
this
it before
prior
during the
to-
budget.
To me
Point of order.
putting this amendment forward,
So, yeah.
Pardon?
and it
This-
was approved.
the
By
Senate-
who?
Yeah, the senator said it was cleared.
By who, sir? I'm
Who-
just saying,
who
this is
cleared
something was not allowed in your rules. We should, this is normally not allowed in a debate, to play a video without the consent of the body. We're debating here.
Do I
Okay.
need to make a motion to have the
Senator,
video
Yeah,
approved to
okay,
be played?
Senator Matarani, can you elaborate on how you got this video cleared?
I requested clearance from you first. You said get clearance from rules. Rules said get clearance from the speaker, and I got clearance.
Okay, so that's the chronology, Senator. And so it hasn't been cleared by...
So is that a new rule, that we are allowed to bring videos in during our debate and play whatever videos we want during our debate?
by-
I really think that's going to diminish and confuse the public. They're going to think that's something that's actually happening
I
in here
just
when
cleared
it's
it up
not.
like you had requested.
And I think that should be done pursuant to a motion.
Thank you for your point of information.
Thank you for the interruption. Now,
Sure.
what would you like me to do? How would you like me to proceed?
Barring any objection, we're going to proceed.
I object, sir.
We'll take a 1 minute.
I make a
recess.
motion to use the video.
There's a motion on the floor by the senator to use the video in this presentation of her opening. All in favor indicate by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion fails. You may continue, Senator.
Okay, so in that video, the governor, in 2018, when she appeared before the Filipino community of Guam in a debate, she was asked, how would you fix the problems at the Guam Memorial Hospital? And the governor at that time said, well, if elected, I would fix the IT system at GMH, because if you fix the IT system, it's going to help generate, bill accurately, because you have insurance companies that are complaining, oh, well, the bills aren't, accurate. She also said that she would fix the electrical panel. So that was the point of the video, was to demonstrate that we don't have to wait for people or listen to people making these campaign promises now when we have a governor that already promised that. And here we are years later, still waiting for the governor to prioritize the Guam Memorial Hospital. There's $35 million that has been sitting there, by law, should be there. And if they're following the law, we can reappropriate that money. That is the purpose of the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Point
Senator
of
Blas,
order,
you're
point of order,
recognized.
Mr.
Yes.
Chair. You, in previous chapters, ruled out of order amendments that did not have funds, or even when we were using a funding source that had funds, if it wasn't the accurate amount, you ruled them all out of order.
Yes, I did.
And we confirmed this morning that this funding source has no funds.
Okay.
So
Yeah, thank
you should have ruled this out of order to be
So
consistent, Mr.
I
Chair.
have an answer for that, Senator.
Well, it's inconsistent, Mr. Chair. That is not ruled out of order,
Senator-
because the other ones we could have debated
Senator, I have
also.
an answer for that. So there is a conflict as to whether or not there is a funding source for this. I'm going to recognize Senator Blas because he raised his hand first, and there is an appropriation in FY22 that is recognized, and so we are going to discuss the FY22 appropriation that was done in the FY22 budget.
All right, then I'm just going to say then, this rule change again should
No.
allow us all to debate whether our funding sources are actually have funds.
Yes.
Because you've been ruling them all out of order
I
in the
have-
previous
yeah.
chapter
I have deemed-
by your own determination, and we have OFB who was the one
Yeah.
who said that.
Thank-
OFB, not
thank-
anyone else, but OFB
Thank you,
said
Senator.
there is zero funds in this funding source.
Thank you, Senator. But they did on further review, and I worked with them
Well, they're
on
not
it.
here. Maybe they should take back their word if they're changing their mind or something, because they said zero.
Yeah, Vanessa is here, and that was the original thought until we went into the fiscal year 2022 budget. And it is clearly appropriated in the 2022 budget, and so we're going to continue with the amendment. Senator Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chair, I'm going to be on the assumption that I can go ahead and with my line of questioning to the administration officials that are here to be able to answer this questions with regards to this funding source.
Sure. Why don't we take a 1-minute recess and just to confirm, because I spoke to OFB about this, so I want to go ahead and have you question OFB
And if
first.
OFB, point of order, if they're changing their mind, can we please have them in here to state that on the record?
Yes, that's why I'm taking the recess, Senator. We're in recess. The committee of the whole is back in order. Speaker Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Guerrero, you received a copy of this that we passed out, which is a copy of a page from Public Law 3654, page 2. Can you explain to us, and for everybody has got that the Healthcare Center of Excellence at $35 million, and it's in parentheses. Can you explain this process, why it's there, and what does it mean when it's there?
Senator, the intent when we provided the appropriation for the Center for Excellence, which is everybody refers to as the $35 million appropriation, we embedded that $35 million along with the $5 million for the DOC modernization plan in the FY22 Budget Act. And the way we presented it in the Budget Act was we listed it in the revenue section of the budget. So if you're looking at page 2, if you go down to the portion where it says provision for tax refunds, it listed there a total gross provision for tax refunds of $145 million. That was a set aside for the tax refunds for FY21. Now the second line, it says earned income tax credit reimbursement of $55.8 million. That basically is monies coming from the federal government to help us pay tax refunds. The next line, there is Healthcare Center for Excellence, which shows an amount of $35 million, but that is in parentheses, okay? In other words, we're subtracting it out of the total. The next one down is the new Department of Correction facilities of $5 million. Again, that is in parentheses. In other words, we are subtracting that total from the total, or that amount from the total. The next one is child tax credit receipts, advance and regular. That 35.1 again is federal dollars that we get from the federal government to pay tax refunds. And the last one is additional child tax credit reimbursement of $26.1 million. Now, how did we arrive basically of funding the $35 million was you take the total earned EITC amount of 55.8, you add the child tax credit of 35.1, you add the additional child tax credit of $26 million, and you also add the $68 million of the local general fund that is added on to those amounts to come up with the total provision of $185 million. Then from that $185 million, we subtracted the $35 million for the hospital, Healthcare of Excellence, and the $5 million for DOC. So the net gross provision for tax refund for FY22 was $145 million.
So that basically means that there was the expectation and there's money there, and that it had to be from the total, it had to be subtracted. But it was cash in. It was projected to be cash in.
You can assume that, yes, Senator.
Okay. Ms. Lizama, with Revenue and Tax. Can you explain with regards to earned income tax credit reimbursements? At this point in time, it was reimbursement. So what does that basically mean? We have to pay it first and then request for it?
Okay, thank you, sir. Actually, so for the last several years, the process is we transmit data to the U.S. Treasury. And then what happens is, and that typically happens in the fourth quarter. In first quarter of the following year, we actually get the funds via EFT. So it's predicated upon data that we provide to the Treasury, and then the Treasury gives us the funds. It's deposited into the account. So, and it is based on what we have processed, and so forth. So it's kind of like an advance.
Is there any caveat to that event, to that reimbursement in advance?
Well, typically what happens is there would be adjustments that would need to be made, could possibly be made. But for the most part, what happens is as the next year, rolls over, if there's any balance in the account, what typically happens is what they remit to us is adjusted.
Okay, in your read of this document, does it show that there was the $35 million that was reimbursed and it was supposed to be accounted for in the budget?
You're talking about child tax?
I'm talking about the health care.
Okay, so once we provide the data, the funds are, remitted to us, then we don't, DOA takes over after that.
Okay, then my next question then to you is, Mr. Byrne. Doesn't this show that there's supposed to be a $35 million carve-out of the monies here to be put into the healthcare center?
Actually, Mr. Speaker, I find this a most confusing presentation. But however you look at it, it seems to me that it's purporting to appropriate money from either EITC or child tax credits, which are federal funds and cannot be so appropriated.
This was public law. I'm not making this up. You guys never said anything about it. There was no presentation by the governor in her letter on this budget, nor was there a presentation by the concern brought up by the governor when the law was passed, affirming that this amount was going to be there. So where's this money?
The governor lapsed this budget, Mr. Speaker.
But she didn't lapse 3654. I mean 3656, which is the law that created.
It's my understanding that these are federal funds, and under the Wong versus Kamina ruling, cannot be appropriated. Indeed, and I will ask Ms. Zama to confirm this, it's pretty clear that if we don't use these funds for their intended purpose, which is to fund payments under tax refunds, they have to be returned to the U.S. Treasury.
I get it, Mr. Byrne, but again, while she lapsed 3654, she signed 3656. Both measures in her message to the legislature made no mention of any concern. As a matter of fact, 3656 affirmed the utilization of that same funding source. And from my understanding, the language for 3656 came from the front, came from ADLU. So, if it is recognized here, but not mentioned as a point of concern, point of contention, and it is recognized here and actually signed into law, here, my question is, where is the money? There's obviously the money exists. What account does it, where is it at right now?
The money, as you put it, is presumably sitting in the Federal Treasury Trust account.
None of this money that's here.
That's what I'm trying to respond to, sir.
Okay.
The Federal Treasury Trust account, which cannot be touched except for the purpose.
Why wasn't that point brought up for 3656?
I don't know.
You were the Director of Administration in 3656.
Yes, and I remember being very uncomfortable with certainly this presentation. I wasn't, and I don't know whether it got through well, it didn't get through in the budget message, but I was uncomfortable. I think I was equally uncomfortable with the wording. Nevertheless, it's there, but I cannot take that step to pay out money that I believe to be federal funds.
3656 was signed into law on October 13, 2021. Today is August 18, 2025. Why wasn't anything brought up about what we can't, this 3656 is defective because there's no funding source. And the governor really wants this hospital built.
I don't think I can answer that question, Mr. Speaker. All I know is, as Director of Administration...
I think that is very, okay, I think it's very safe to assume then that the reason why there was no contention and nobody's brought it up is because nobody thought that we would look at, that the money is there.
Well, I don't think so. But may I ask you to consider this? Had the money been paid out, there would not have been a budget surplus of 29 million for you to have reappropriated the money that you've done so earlier in this budget discussion. Because there's 29 million, right? Remember, I said that several times. There's 29 million unassigned budget balance. And if this had been paid out, the budget balance would have been -4.
Not necessarily, because that's what it was already accounted for in the revenues. It was already accounted for in Chapter 1. Before we even went to the appropriations and how much the government would have to spend, it was already accounted for.
That would have been the financial result.
Well, that's exactly how this budget is set up. Okay? That if it is contained in Chapter 1, okay, it's first dollar in, first dollar out. So it's not even considered in appropriations, nor should it be considered as an excess to an appropriation, because it is already considered as part of the appropriative language.
Let me repeat what I said, because I don't think it got...
I think it got very clear, Mr. Byrne. The money is there. You didn't, there was no contention of it, and somehow it's in an abyss. My time is up, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
On the amendment.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Again,
Yes.
OFB told us there's 0 funds in this fund. So as you have done in previous amendments, you've ruled them out of order if there's not enough funding in this. And you did not allow us to debate or amend it or do anything else.
Senator, correction. OFB did not say. OFB said there is money in this fund.
No, I asked
They
them
said
on the record this morning, is there any funds in the 21st Century Healthcare Center of Excellence Fund? And their answer was 0.
Stand by for
or
the
last
answer.
night.
Stand by for the answer right now.
Senator, your question to me was whether or not there was any funding in the 21st Century Health Excellence account, and the answer is no, not in the account.
So point of order, Mr. Chair. That's
Yes.
my point of order.
Yes,
There's 0 funds in this fund.
Senator, my ruling to accept this is because while it's not in the account, that's an error of DOA because this is an appropriation. I'm going to take a 1-minute recess for a legal opinion. The committee of the whole is back in order. For you members, we currently have Attorney Miller from the Attorney General's office en route to the legislature. I've alerted him as to this, the possibility of some issues with regard to whether or not these public laws were followed. And so I have deemed this appropriate to debate for the $35 million based on OFB's presentation of the appropriation. So on that, Senator Talatani, will you
Point of
recognize?
order, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Point of
Mr.
order.
Chair, I have actually, it's been point of, if I can please have the opportunity to speak. I've been waiting for a while. I mean, I'm hoping that there's money in this account, Mr. Chair, that they maybe set it aside for something. But I was there in the 27th Guam Legislature when we had this budget bill, the one that's standing in front of us, or sitting in front of us with all the numbers. And I remember this budget bill thinking, oh my gosh, what did OFB do to try and make it more confusing to understand? This was not what was in the prior years. It was a simplified budget. And I remember distinctly Daphne Shimzu being here, along with Mr. Burns and them. They were here talking about this, well, at the time, Mr. Chair, it was potential reimbursement from earned income tax credit. But Daphne mentioned, and I kept mentioning throughout the budget bill, that this earned income tax credit funds cannot be used to reimburse anything. Daphne kept saying it, and if we'd like to pull the tapes on her description of how this money is going to come to us, unfortunately, it's going to come to us, but it's going to be in a lockbox. So we won't be able to use that money, that reimbursement from earned income tax credit, to pay off something we just paid for or something that we can use. And that's what they told us. We could not use that earned income tax credit funding. So it's going to be in a lockbox. And here we were appropriating for this Century Hospital, and then also DOC. If you remember that it was also funding for DOC. DOC, but when it came, nothing happened. So in FY23 budget, I was wondering, okay, maybe because the law says that she shall set aside from the general fund. The law said to send from the general fund the next year. But when we looked at the budget bill for FY23, there was no appropriation for $35 million. And I was thinking, okay, well, the law said that we have, we, the body, must appropriate 35. So that's my understanding of it. And Mr. Byrne, you were there. I don't know, Lester, if you happen to be there, and Daphne was, like I said, was there. I know Marie wasn't there yet. But Mr. Byrne, when the earned income tax credit reimbursement came to us finally, and I believe it was July or June, maybe could have been a little bit early because we were debating the budget bill in August. When it did come in, did you pay off any obligations from something else or reimbursed yourself from paying off something like the school or the hospital or anything? Did you?
Senator, if we're going to have all this legal language thrown around, I don't know that we should be saying anything.
Okay.
If it's withdrawn, I'll certainly respond to your question.
Okay, I do understand your predicament at this point, because if we do get legal, and I appreciate we do get legal coming in here and giving us an idea of what is law, but that, for my colleagues who were not here in the 22nd Guam Legislature, that's my recollection of it. So if the administration
Senator, are you saying 27th Guam Legislature?
I mean, no, what did I say, sir? Say it again.
Yeah, you said 27th
No,
Guam Legislature?
if they weren't in the 22nd Guam, I'm sorry, the 22nd Guam Legislature. Long week, sorry. My apologies.
22nd
So
Legislature?
It was the budget bill for FY2026, so it would be the 36th Guam Legislature?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, 36th Guam Legislature. So this was for fiscal year 2022, though, the budget that we're doing. So, and like I said, if the governor has this secret account somewhere, I'd like to know about it, because we could sure use it right now. And I'm kind of hesitant to ask Lester if there's a secret account anywhere, unless he wants to wait for legal to come here too as well. Is there some kind of secret account, Lester, that the governor's been putting money in there and not telling us about? Or would you like to wait till legal comes? Oh, the answer is, can you just say it into the microphone?
I'm going to say this. This morning, Mr. Guerrero said there was no money. If you guys have access to the GFMIS system, and you can show me an account that has money in it, then fine. DOA never established the account. I load the money. I never loaded it. I don't know what we're debating here. All we're saying is we thought it was not prudent or legal to do this, so we never did it. When you guys heard about our response for DOC, you accepted it. It's the same premise, but when it comes to GMH, oh, hala, toka, lana, I'm going to call the AG. I'm not going to sit here while you guys figure out what you're going to do with legal implications when it was fine this morning or the other day for DOC. You guys had no problem with us not putting money from the same fund source. But when you turn your head, all of a sudden now, we're like the devil. And you're going to call the AG. And there was discussion about violation of law. Well, look, in the face of a potential, investigation by this body, I think it's time for me and Mr. Byrne to wait for that legal decision to play itself out. Let us take a look at what it is that, the decision is. If we agree, fine. If we don't agree, we're going to take it up.
Thank you, Lester. I respect that. Okay, so I will stop asking any more questions. But again, for my colleagues, in the 36th Guam Legislature, fiscal year 2022 was quite interesting on the budget bill, how it was fixed together. It was just very weird how this was done. So other than that, Mr. Chair, I needed to find out if there's money. Hearing it from there, they say there's no money. So now other than, I don't know what else to say, but I'm crossing my fingers and hope we can find additional money somewhere to help our Guam Memorial Hospital. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator, once again, to be clear, I never stated on the record that there's an account with 35 million loaded in it. I said there is an appropriation, and there's a public law for an appropriation, and the public law that provides for the appropriation calls for the establishment of the account by law. Senator Burnett, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah. On the amendment,
Okay.
the amendment.
I wasn't sure, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I have the law in front of me. I'm just going to read the section. It says the sum of no more than $35 million from the revenues received will be available for fiscal year 2022 only. So we're kind of going to follow this logic. I mean, there's no guarantee there would have even have been $35 million. Could have been way less. But I just on the procedural point, Mr. Chair, I think the amendment as it reads references the 21st Century Healthcare Center of Excellence Fund, and Mr. Guerrero and Mr. Byrne and Mr. Carlson, there can be peace in the world. They all agree that there's no money in that account. And so I just ask that you be consistent in your rulings, Mr. Chair, and rule this amendment out of order. And then if you guys want to do your investigation with the AG, then, so be it. But I think it's very clear if we're being consistent on how you ruled on other amendments. I mean, you ruled my amendment out of order, and it was I was trying to appropriate $10 million, and there was a $4.5 million balance in the fund. So we're trying to appropriate $35 million from a fund that has $0 in it, so I don't see why we're proceeding with the amendment. And I would just further, again, respectfully, Mr. Chair, ask that you dispense of this amendment by ruling it out of order in the name of being consistent with your previous rulings, and that we move on to the next amendment. And then again, if there's any investigation or whatever the AG, I'm not opposed to that. I will say that I did think it was interesting that, you know, I've seen this law in the books, and the new hospital has been a huge discussion in the 3 years I've been a senator. But one thing I've seen consistently is that the governor has been traveling back and forth to Washington, D.C. to attempting to secure all kinds of funds for this new hospital. So that was kind of always playing in the back of my head. Okay, so we're supposed to be setting aside this 35 mil, but why is the gov going to get all these funds? So maybe, I mean, obviously somebody knew that the money wasn't there, but I think that's the point. If we're proceeding with this amendment, it's very clear that the money is not there, Mr. Chair. And so, with all due respect, I just ask that you, again, be consistent and use the privilege of the chair to render a fair ruling that aligns with the previous rulings that you made in this budget session, Mr. Chair. Sizus Masi.
Sizus Masi, thanks for your comments and concern. I will stay with the fact that my ruling is that there's an appropriation, and if it's not in the account, that's a miscarriage as far as I'm concerned, because that's what the laws say. I'm following what I believe the laws do, and I voted on those bills. I was in the 36th Guam Legislature, and I totally expected that this $35 million was available and should be in an account. And I'm ruling also based on the fact that I've been in the legislature since, and I've never seen a transmittal, I've never seen a letter.
That's all.
I've never seen a de-appropriation. I've never seen anything like that, and unless somebody can show me that, then I will reverse myself and say, then there's no money. But I voted on those bills. I voted, them to become public law, and I believe them to be public law, so this is righteous for debate of this $35 million. On the amendment.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Again, your rule was that we are going to rule out of order amendments where there are no funds. Not whether there's an appropriation that we're going to investigate or something, but where there are no funds. And the testimony was that there's no such fund, there's no such fund. There's no, and even if the fund existed, it has a zero balance. That's per OFB. And that the EITC had to have been deposited to the EITC account only. It could not be moved. And that it was never available according to the federal reimbursement negotiations or whatever mandate. And if we want to investigate where this appropriation is, then maybe we're going to be investigating ourselves, because we made the appropriation despite the advice from Revenue and Taxation at that time. OFB was the same OFB who told us, and while Revenue and Tax was telling us, we're not done with our negotiation yet, we don't know if we're ever going to get this money. So we don't know whether you can use it either. But they did it anyways because they wanted to have credit for funding a hospital and DOC. But they've told us the money's not there. So we need to fund DOC. We need to fund GMH. That's what we're trying to do in this chapter. And so we should get to that, like with real funds and not with something that does not exist, because that wastes their time, our time, these guys' time. And in the end, if you're correct and somebody should have made a deposit that they didn't make, then you need to investigate that. But that doesn't give us money.
Yeah.
It doesn't give us money for GMH. It gives us a myth. And please, let's not do that. No. We have concrete money that we can be putting to GMH. Let's work on that, and let's spend our time doing that, Mr. Chair.
Senator,
very inconsistent of you.
Thank you, Senator. My ruling remains that there's an appropriation for $35 million in public law, and there is a public law that calls for the appropriation into the Center of Excellence, Healthcare of Excellence, and it is in law. In fact, the same reimbursement account, earned income tax credit account, is right above that negative set aside appropriation.
Yes, but the balance is zero. There's zero. And in fact, there's no
appropriation-
such fund.
The appropriation is $35 million.
But the balance is zero.
On the amendment, anybody else wish to speak on the amendment?
On the amendment, Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
that's a point of order. You're being very inconsistent, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. On the
So,
amendment?
yes, on the amendment, again, GMH is being faced with very real money issues. Real money issues. They need real money. They don't need these games to be played again that were played with DOC and the brand new hospital with phantom money. They don't need that to happen again. And I'm shocked that OFB is going to be involved in telling us that there's some kind of money here when they know there is no money. And that we're going to go through this whole procedure of passing a pretend funding source for GMH. They sent out a letter to their employees telling them, don't worry, we're going to get $35 million from this brand new hospitals fund that has zero. Come on, let's just do something good here. We don't have to fight over money that does not exist. Let's fight over the money that exists if we're going to fight. Let's give them something real. Why do this disservice on top of the disservice that we do already? We give them money, we don't give them enough. So they are now short. And ultimately, when GMH is short, so some people in here think we're wasting our time by having a debate on GMH because maybe they don't care that GMH is short. Maybe it's nothing to them. Because maybe, I don't know why. But all I know is every single one of us in here should want GMH to succeed in the next 5 years before we build a new hospital. And we should not want the nurses to come crying here for us to help them. We should not have patients calling us up because they don't have gowns, medicine, supplies, baby wipes. You heard it all. So why are we going to repeat that? Why are we going to give them fake money? You want to call the AG to investigate OFB and BBMR? Go ahead. But that doesn't help GMH. So right now, today, let's help GMH. It's like so many opportunities to fund them. You have a withholding that we can increase to fund GMH, real money. You have excess revenues that we can use for GMH, real money. We have current revenues, BPT taxes that we can use to fund GMH for the next 5 years, so that we are not operating a substandard hospital for the people of Guam. It's not a game. Some people think it's a game. It's not a game. So I don't understand why we're going to pretend. This amendment before us says we're going to give $35 million from an appropriation that happened back in the 36th Guam Legislature. We're in the 38th Guam Legislature. The appropriation never came to fruition. It was never deposited. The fund never existed. And federal law prohibits us from using EITC reimbursements even if we did receive them. But I think if they're correct that in that year we didn't even receive a reimbursement, they gave us in advance for the next fiscal year, or calendar year, however they do it. But, so there's reasons maybe that it's not in the fund, and we can get mad about it, but that doesn't help GMH, I'm telling you. Let's get to the real solutions for GMH. Honestly, we did this game with the prison. Then we did this game of fake money for the new hospital. And now we're going to do the game of fake money for the current patients at GMH? I don't know, I'm sorry. It makes me angry. And I think everybody should be angry. that we're even going to consider that. I guess I should thank OFB that it wasn't in the bill as substituted out of the committee, because they knew they couldn't do it. And that they were honest with us that there are zero funds
Thank
in
you,
that
Senator.
account, so we should
Thank-
not
thank you,
pass
Senator.
this amendment
Thank you,
and lie
Senator.
to the people of Guam.
Thank you, Senator. Once again, the appropriation is
Mr. Chair, I did not ask
clear.
any question.
Yes, so this is real money, and we're going to find out. And the AG is
Mr.
also
Chair.
going to do a forensic investigation.
That's
of
fine, Mr.
revenue
Chair, but that's
taxation
out of order.
to see if there are any inappropriate transfers, and so that is
That's
also
fine, Mr.
part
Chair.
of the,
You're debating me,
overall-
Mr.
yeah.
Chair. You need to come to the floor, please.
I'm
Point of order.
providing information. On the amendment, anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
I agree with testimony of retiring speakers that this should be out of order. We should not be debating amendments with no funding source if we're going to be consistent with the rules as established thus far. But if we are going to debate this, then let's debate it. Then let's debate it. There is a really earnest wish for there to be $35 million in this account. From me, budget chair, for this whole body, we all really wish $35 million was in there. But no amount of wishing is going to make that come true. We have heard OFB testify this morning that there is no money. But that doesn't mean that the need from GMH disappears. We still have $35 million worth of problems that need to be solved. The amendment that we are debating today shows the great need. Our need is so great, we are debating phantom money. But we don't have to debate phantom money. We can debate real money today. This problem we're running into right now shows the folly of repealing the BPT the way we have. You want to fill this gap? There it is. We just need to take back this generous tax break that we are insisting upon giving for the top 1%. Because no matter how hard we wish and wish and wish, there's no money in there. And I support an investigation if any malfeasance was done. Absolutely. Get to the bottom of it. But looking at the legislative history of it, it looked like we didn't know if we could use that money when we appropriated it. And then when that money came, we couldn't. And it never was, and it never did. And so it was never there. It should be there. But there are limits to the power of this body, on what this body can do with a vote of 8. We can't not make a vote of 8 turn the sky pink. We cannot, with a vote of 8, turn the river to flow like chocolate. And we cannot, with a vote of 8, make $35 million show up in an account when it is not there. Even if it is completely justified that the mistake is not ours. If you go to the bank and there's some sort of problem, that ain't going to solve your problem today. And we have to debate a budget today with real money. We have a source of about $40 million. Our dilemma should we be asking these businesses to pitch into their community? The big debate we should be tearing our hair over should this go to the schools or the hospitals? That should be the debate we're having, because both of those institutions have incredible need. Instead, I have to belabor on like I'm Grandpa Bernie Sanders about this 1% tax cut. I would rather not have that argument. I would rather argue about what institution actually gets these revenues. There is no money in this account. And there is $35 million worth of need in the hospital, and there's $35 million worth of need at the school. And we have a source of $40 million with a simple vote of 8. If this body could find the will to do so. So, I support wishing for $35 million to go to the hospital if that will help, but I don't think it will. Thank you, Mr.
Senator.
Chair.
Vice Speaker?
Mr. Chair, you're recognized, but before you begin, I'll go ahead and yield my time to you, so the clock will reflect 10 minutes. You may begin, Mr. Chair.
Jesus Masi, Mr. Chair. You know, I'm very troubled. I'm very troubled, Mr. Chair. You know, we sat here and we listened to Speaker Frank Blas clearly point out the two public laws, that one establishing the account, establishing this appropriation, and Mr. Chair, in the last legislature, the 37th, we entertained a bill by Senator Duane Nicholas that attempted to appropriate the $5 million for DOC of their debt service as recognized in this same appropriation, Mr. Chair. And this body whittled it down to $4 million. As a matter of fact, OFB, I'm going to go ahead and ask you right now, what is the account right now for DOC? I believe I saw that at $4 million or $3 million, somewhere around there. The DOC appropriation as enumerated in the appropriation. What's in the account?
The account title, Senator, is entitled the DOC Modernization Account. And if you look at the FY23, I believe, 22 financial statements, it'll show two appropriations, one for $4 million and the other one for $1 million.
So, Mr. Chair, I don't know how much more precedent this body needs. We went ahead and deposited $5 million into that account, and that's why, Mr. Chair, we were able last legislature to pass $1 million in appropriations to DOC, and DOC has come down here to this body to report that it did an MOU with Guåhan to assist them with repairs and help up at DOC with that $1 million, Mr. Chair. And right now there's a fund balance in there. Or maybe they didn't even spend it yet. I think that was Fred's, the director's testimony, that he did not spend it yet because he was waiting on the MOU with Guåhan. So, you know, sometimes, Mr. Chair, we got gooses and we got ganders. And for my grandma Heinzelman from Michigan, she used to always tell me, son, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But we don't have that here. We got a gander, DOC, $5 million. Obviously, DOA must have transferred that money into the account. I mean, I don't think it magically appeared. And even if they transferred general fund revenue, Mr. Chair, I'm sure it's because they didn't have to worry about anything for tax refunds. And that gave them the revenue that they could populate that account. But they never did the 35 million. They never did it. So I believe that's going to be a finding of the Attorney General as well. Wait a minute. You didn't have any problem doing the 5 million. You didn't have any problem appropriating the 1 million from last fiscal year, or in the last last legislature. So why can you do it one time, but you can't do it the other time? You know, the other thing, Mr. Vice Speaker, that I'm really, you know, some of my friends around here use the term rich. They like to say that that argument is rich. And you know what, Mr. Chair? The richness of this argument is this. This legislature, since we've been experiencing excess revenues, have been appropriating and appropriating and appropriating and appropriating like no tomorrow. Unaudited excess revenues in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Funny money. The richness of funny money. There's nothing more funny than funny money that hasn't been recognized through an audit. Through an audit, Mr. Chair. And, I mean, I'm sick too. I don't feel well that for some reason, it looks like for some egregious reason, there was not a transfer of that $35 million into this account. But that doesn't mean, Mr. Chair, that the appropriation isn't there. And you know, Mr. Chair, what I find so perplexing is when we talk about fiscal year and, you know, the fiscal year and we appropriate in the fiscal year, in the same fiscal year, a few laws apart, the appropriation is there and it calls for the deposit to the account. So it's not different fiscal years. It should have happened in the same fiscal year. And also, Mr. Chair, public law is public law. If the governor and the director of Department of Administration and all the fiscal team knew that they couldn't deposit into this account, they should have advised this body. I'm not worried about investigating myself of what bill I voted for, Mr. Chair, because I'm not the executive branch. The very basics of the civics here is the legislature appropriates and the executive branch executes. We don't have any control of accounts that are going to be forensically investigated soon here. We don't control that. Only thing this body controls is what exists in our house. We're responsible for that. But we're not responsible once the public law is passed and the authority is given away. You know, it saddens me, you know. As I said, the appropriations that we did that I believe are very viable in terms of the fiscal year 2025 excess revenue, I believe the money's going to be there, Mr. Chair. But I have a little tiny bit of apprehension in my spine because there might be a chance. But Mr. Chair, you know, we'll be able to deal with that as we go forward. Hopefully we realize excess revenue, or maybe we cut somewhere. Maybe we move some money. That's the process. That's no problem. This is a problem. This is a real problem, I believe. So, Marie, I don't know if you're willing to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Are you aware of any deposits, transfers in or out at Department of Revenue Taxation, or that Revenue Taxation transferred any money to DOA with specifics to this appropriation?
No, sir, I'm not aware. As I mentioned earlier, part of the process is we provide the data to the U.S. Treasury, and then the U.S. Treasury deposits the money straight into those special bank accounts.
So, Marie, because of course revenue tax is your responsibility, the earned income tax credit reimbursement, this, I'm hearing two things because I've heard two things from some officials up at revenue tax. Yeah. And that is that the account originally started as a reimbursement account, but a couple fiscal years later, it was turned into where you verify and validate what the charges are against the account, and then they'll pay out.
So I think the only reimbursement that occurred was for the child tax credit. But with regard to the earned income tax credit, there are specific, accounts, and, as I mentioned, what happens is we provide the data, the treasury deposits into those accounts, and then when the time comes for us to provide the data again, we give the U.S. Treasury the balances on those particular accounts, and then the data that we provide to them, they again deposit monies, and if we somehow fall short, then we request for more money for those accounts. That's my knowledge.
Marie, in your reading of this, because you're responsible regardless of what fiscal year it is, in your reading of this public law that enumerated the budget here, do you agree that the reading of the account is for earned income tax credit reimbursements as per the public law?
So the way it's written, it certainly looks like they use the word reimbursements, but I'm not sure that that is accurate. I don't believe so, because it's really, like I said, we're given an advance on the earned income tax credits based on the data that's provided in the fourth quarter of the year.
Okay. If this was your responsibility, I'm asking a question. If this was your responsibility and you knew for some reason that an appropriation didn't have a proper funding source, would you notify the governor and notify the legislature?
Sure. Well,
Okay.
I mean, but I'm not part of this.
Sure, I understand, and I don't hold you accountable for it. Somebody will be accountable for it, but I don't hold you accountable for it. But, Mr. Chair, in my simple reading of this amendment, it's public law. In my simple reading of the public law, had this account not been eligible for that, I don't think that still abrogates the responsibility of the public law. We should have been notified that we need a general fund appropriation for it, or just like when they set aside for self-insurance, they just set aside an account that the audit shows in 2023 for $33 million. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I have a point of information.
Thank you, Senator Duenas.
Point of information.
Senator Barnett.
So I know we're talking about this Department of Corrections $5 million appropriation, and when we entertained the bill that was introduced by Senator Dwayne St. I remember during the discussion we had been of the mindset that there was more than $5 million, because I believe it was like a yearly appropriation. And so I'm just going to ask for clarity if the $5 million that was referenced by the previous speaker was an appropriation made after fiscal year 2022, because I think that's my understanding, so I don't know if anybody up here from BBMR can confirm that. Mr. Chair.
Last week, we discussed this. There was an understanding by OFB that there was a cumulative amount of $15 million. Last week, we gave the legislature some clarity because the first deposit was from EITC, we didn't think it was an appropriate thing to do, and we never funded the first one. And then there was never anything from the legislature subsequent to that until this fiscal year, 5 million. Hence, there's only 5 million loaded, 1 million has been expended. Not in a prior fiscal year, sir, in the current fiscal year. So my point is, last week when I told you about that, you guys didn't have a problem with the decision that we didn't feel it was appropriate to put 5 million from reimbursements of EITC, which we never got. We only got advances. You didn't have a problem. Today you have a problem. I can't understand how you can extrapolate from, oh, it's okay for not to fund the inmates, but then all of a sudden now you get like halos and stuff because now we're talking about a hospital. It's the same thing.
Thank you, because I know that the argument that was presented by the retiring speaker seemed to be that we appropriated $5 million for DOC out of this fund that, we were supposed to, the $35 million was supposed to come from, and that's not accurate. It's really apples and oranges, and so I think the argument that was posed is moot, with all due respect. Sidus Masi.
We disagree. The 5 million was loaded. Anybody else on the amendment, on the $35 million amendment that's proposed by Senator Montanani? Anybody wish to speak? Senator Gumatauto, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Public Law 36-56 that was enacted in October of 2021 recognized that $35 million may be secured by a pledge or other reservation of revenues collected by the government of Guam, from $35 million from EITC reimbursements for a fiscal year 2022 only, and $35 million from the general fund annually thereafter. I do support the amendment, Mr. Chairman. Public Law 3656 also provided that the governor, again, may use funds that are made available from the federal government and the local government for the purpose of developing a new healthcare facility. With the public announcement by the Leon Guerrero administration of DRT's EITC implementation plan of 2021, approved, Mr. Chair, in February 2022, and the subsequent receipt of $56.1 million in EITC reimbursements, that reimbursement started with local funds. It's a reimbursement. It's a start, Mr. Chair. How much did the government of Guam receive in EITC reimbursements for fiscal years 2024, 2023, 2022? I'm not going to belabor it and and talk about it here with these guys here, because I think there's other issues in front of us, like this amendment. But for fiscal years 2024, 23, 22, and 21, what were the gross provisions for tax refunds, general fund tax refund set-asides? How was portions paid for of these things? But I do have an answer when I think about all of this discussion today, Mr. Chair, is this budget provision. You cannot unread that budget provision. Mr. Chair, this amendment is a solution for GMH. They were just here. I wish there was this level of passion, and no offense to you, Mr. Chair, for the previous two legislatures to push for the construction of a new hospital in Guam. But we're here now. In the 38th Guam Legislature, I will remind those that are here that we are a co-equal branch of government that sets policy. The governor of Guam executes the policies that are created here. I did not vote on Public Law 36-56. 8 members of this body here, of the 15 members, voted in the affirmative, and they are still waiting, Mr. Chair, for this policy to be executed. However it might be, I do support the amendment for GMH, supporting all of our agencies, the taxpayers, and the people of Guam who are here watching and are hoping that we can come to a solution that best fits the needs of their people in 2025. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sidus Masi, Senator Gumatauto. On the amendment, Senator San Agustin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. question for Steve. When the bill passed in reference to the 21st century medical facilities, was there any funds put in any account? Any money appropriated?
If you're referencing to the public law itself, I do not believe any. Yeah, I do not believe any funds were deposited.
Yep, and you are of the understanding that the funds that's going to be available is upon when they go to the bond market, so that the 35 will be available to pay back the bond, correct?
It is my understanding, Senator, even previous bills, I think in the beginning when we did when we first appropriated or tried to appropriate outright by setting aside some of the provisions, that the intent is that once GITA secures the bond, that the legislature would be held to appropriating $35 million every year once that bond was secured as payment for the bond.
That's correct, and it's in the bill. You know, as everybody keeps reading 1, 2, and 3, the sum of 35 from earned income, EITC reimbursement. No such thing happened, as far as I'm concerned. The 35 million to be appropriated annually. The point is, wait until we go to the bond. The next one, the governor will receive it. Then number 4, the use of other financial options authorized for the purpose of this act, including but not limited to loans, grants, bond financing. That would be the key. Now, I've heard earlier, there's no money. There's no 35 million. I have to believe that there is no 35 million, because I don't remember at any point since that bill was passed that we ever identified and appropriated and anyone voted to appropriate 35 million. Am I correct, Steve? Because you were the OB and I was the chair.
Senator, let me just kind of clarify something here. OFB is the one that created the budget bill back in FY22.
That's correct.
And at the time of the discussion, we had a discussion with both Department of Administration, Revenue Tax, as Marie and Mr. Burns indicated here. When we finally decided to incorporate this 35 million and 5 million for DOC, it was under the pretense that we were going to get reimbursed for federal dollars that the government of Guam would fork up to pay tax refunds. That was the pretense of why we put it in the bill. That is the pretense why we showed it in the revenues this way.
Right.
So again, the only thing I'm saying, and I've heard comments here today that said that, one, there was no refunds received. If there's no refunds received, then I guess no refunds were received. Did we pay out the tax refunds? Yes, we did. How did we pay the tax refunds? I am assuming that the federal government, again, this is another comment that was made today, was that we turn in the receipts and the federal government will turn around and write us a check, deposit it into this trust account that we have here, specifically only for the purpose of paying tax refunds. If we draw down 50 million, and normally I'm assuming we're drawing down based on what we owe at the time. If we draw down 35 million and the feds give us 35 million, we pay it off, there's nothing in the bank. If we draw down 45 million as a projected amount to pay out, and we pay out 35 million, the difference needs to stay in that trust account because it cannot be paid for anything else other than tax refunds. That is my understanding. But this is all federal dollars. This is not local money. So I'm, again, going back to the time we did this, it was under the pretense that we were putting out the general fund money to pay for tax refunds with the assumption we were going to get reimbursed. And that's probably why a lot of us here are using this word reimbursement as, saying, hey, where's the money? And I'm just asking the folks here in the administration 2 things. Did we get reimbursed? So if we got reimbursed, it's telling me we use local monies to pay for that refund. And then we're getting reimbursed. That reimbursement should not go into the trust fund because we use general fund money. But if we did not get reimbursed and we were using federal monies to pay for it, then of course, there's no reimbursement. There's no money. So that is why we presented it this way, and I'll tell you, that is exactly what we did and why we did it. And when we debated on this floor, the mechanism and why we did it, in the end, everybody was hunky-dory. I don't like this comment now is by the time we passed it, nobody knew what the heck this was. We're talking about 5 years later, and we're criticizing a document we all had our hands in. And, you know, I just take it a little exception that this is not Steve Guerrero's doing. We presented it this way, but it's up to the body to decide what they want to do. But to say anything other than that, I take exceptions to it. And I believe what was been told here, if that's the God truth, then it's the God's truth. I can't say anything about it. But Senator San Agustin, you asked me, I told you, you were the chairman of appropriation. You were sitting right behind me when all these people agreed on it, when we finally passed the bill. But for them to come back and say, oh, we don't know what the heck this was, why it was presented this way. I remember spending almost 2 weeks just on revenues to convince the body this is what we were doing. And that's what happened. If we're going to debate what we did 4 or 5 years ago, then, you know, that's 4 or 5 years later. We all missed the boat. But we're here to debate what we did 5 years later, then yes, this is what we did. What the final outcome was, we didn't know at the time. We didn't know if we were going to get reimbursed. We didn't know if there's going to be money deposited to this fund. This is all in hindsight. But, you know, for the body, I mean, you know, I'm just saying, take what's here. Take what's real. Take what's in front of us and move with it. I'm not going to dispute anything anybody said here. But don't go back 4 or 5 years and tell me what we did was wrong, when all of this whole legislature agreed. Maybe not entirely 100%, but it had to be the majority because it passed. And like I said, I've been here 7 years. And not one of the 7 years has anybody come up to me and says, hey, lousy job. Every year that it was done, you all came up to me and said, good job. I take it verbatim. I take it with a grain of salt. But I just find it very disheartening now to hear all this. And this is all in hindsight.
Thank you, Steve. Now to Marie, because I know you weren't the director back then at DRT, and you got a little bit of the history on there, and you'll be responsible. Can you give us a little bit of the history of when we started getting federal money for the tax refund, to support tax refund?
So with regard to the earned income tax credit, that started with tax year 2021. And so the advance was provided in year 2022.
Okay, ma'am, before you move on, when you say advance, how is the system set up that we would get the advance?
So again, so we would have provided data in the fourth quarter of the previous year, and then provided that data to the U.S. Treasury, and then the Treasury would go ahead and approve such monies and deposit them directly into accounts set up with the Department of Administration.
Okay. Now, I think my colleagues need to understand that at that time, exactly what Mr. Guerrero mentioned, it was under the pretense that we'd probably get reimbursed. But later on, we found out there's no reimbursement. Because why? The federal government was going to pay for the EITC, I think all the different tax benefits, they were going to pay for it. And we pay a small amount, local fund. Am I correct, Marie?
That would have been with child tax credit.
But most most of it is, we have EITC and child tax rate, correct?
Yes.
So out of the $100 and some million, how much is federal money?
All of it? Well, actually, okay, so with regard to EITC, right, that's exactly, everything is federally funded. CTC, or I'm sorry, Child's Tax Credit, also federally funded. Monies are deposited directly from the U.S. Treasury. So I think, and earlier it was pointed out to me that perhaps there was some confusion because the words reimbursement and advancement are being used interchangeably, and it shouldn't be. So to my understanding, the only thing that was reimbursable prior to the tax year of 2021 really was the child tax credit. Starting with the tax year 2021, it was paid out as an advancement in the year 2022.
So you're saying there was no reimbursement?
Right. Oh, and I'm sorry, there's a clarification on that. And it does say here on this page 2 that it's for the additional child tax credit. That's the reimbursement.
So we got, how much did we get in reimbursement then?
Well, okay, so starting in 2022, I'll just give you a rundown of EITC and CTC. 2022, we had 56.1 million. In 2023, another 56.1 million. In 2024, we had 45.218 million, and then in 2025, we received 46,022,000.
All federal money, correct?
All federal money, correct.
Okay.
Yes. Child tax credit ended up being combined eventually with the additional child tax credit. So for what we received in 2023 was 62,670,000. 2024, 53,840,000, and in 2025, 51,457,000.
Did we receive anything else?
No.
All of that was federally funded, correct?
Correct.
And that was due to the government of Guam was able to convince the federal government that they are to pay it for us. And we got to keep in mind, okay, so my colleagues understand, we don't contribute to this fund. We basically get this money free. Because why? How is the tax system set up here in Guam?
It mirrors the IRS.
But do we pay the federal government?
No. I mean, well, no.
No. Okay. Very simple. So for me, on the issue of the 35 million, helping GMHs, I have no problem doing that. I would support this bill under the pretense that the 35 million does exist. But knowing, I don't believe the 35 million exists. I wish it did. Because if it did, I would state I'm in full support of the amendment. But because the word reimbursement, did we get any reimbursement, Marie? Do you believe we got a reimbursement?
No, we get advances.
Okay. Mr. Burns, have we ever received any reimbursement from the federal government for any expenditures? For whatever year. You can do 22,
Yes.
23,
I
24.
mean, for our normal federal expenditures, most of them, with the exception of these tax accounts.
But not for taxes.
And our ARP, which was an advance, and the CARES Act was an advance. Almost all the other federal expenditures are reimbursements.
Okay. Mr. Steve, in reference to the DOC, it was appropriated in FY 2025. Why was it appropriated to put the 5 million in DOC? To help them, am I correct? Maybe you can just echo that. It was to find ways to help them. Because they were supposed to go to the bond market, get with Gita and go to the bond market and find ways to get money. Because remember, we pushed that bill. the Modernization Act of DOC. Please explain why we put the 5. I think it was just strictly just to help them get by, survive per se.
Yes, Senator. Since the enabling legislation that actually appropriated both the supposedly the 35 and the 5 million, again from the reimbursement of the EITC, since then, nothing really materialized with the Modernization Act. But this, I believe in 25, we actually spoke with DOC folks and everything else, and they gave us the assurance that we're going to start the project going. So we agreed to go ahead and fund the 5 million in 25 this year on the assumption last year's conversation they would start this year. And that's why the 5 million was in the budget.
So if we had gotten assurance that GMH was going to break ground and build a new hospital, we would have appropriated and identified the 35 million. Am I correct?
If they gave us the same assurance that DOC, I would have been inclined to do that, yes.
So in other words, 35 million doesn't exist. It didn't exist then, and it doesn't exist now. Am I correct?
If you're referring to the initial 35 and the 5 that Public Law 3657, again, sir, you know, it was all predicated on the whole discussion today, whether or not reimbursements were ever made. And again, if reimbursements were not made, then I can understand why BBMR and I can understand why DOA will sit here and say there was no money ever deposited because there was no money received to a reimbursement to fund those appropriations in that law. And that's just under the assumption that no reimbursements were made.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. That being said, like I said, I'd like to support, Mr. Chairman, the amendment, but I'm not safely assured that the 35 million does exist. I do have an amendment further down that would basically earmark a lot of money, the money that comes in FY2026 to go, basically any surplus that comes in after October, all goes to GMH until up to $20 million, so that we can find a way to help them and it captures anything else. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. On the amendment, Senator Perez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so what I'm hearing from the panel is that these advancements have restricted uses for tax refunds. Is that correct, Director Lozama?
Correct.
And so they cannot be used for a hospital or DOC.
That's right.
And so the money that we received, although it was written in a budget bill, we had high hopes. I know that somehow that could be used for CIP projects. It was out of our hands because of the federal rules. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so as of today, Lester, if you can kind of give information regarding did we ever receive reimbursements regarding the tax refunds, whether it was the EITC or the child tax credits?
The subject law we're talking about has a Part 1 and Part 2, and it says for FY22 only, EITC reimbursements. We did not get any EITC reimbursements in FY22. So we didn't feel that it was appropriate to load money that we never got. So we never did that for either DOC or for the 21st Century Hospital. We're consistent in our application of what we thought was appropriate. And so, yeah, there's no money.
Okay, so, I think that's very clear to me that there is no money in these funds because we have to follow federal rules, which are very strict. We can't stray from those. And so again, like my colleagues have said, this is, wishful thinking that we have money in an account. I wish we had money in this account, but, unfortunately we don't. And so I think we need to move on and think about the real money that exists, which is the BPT rollback. I mean, this body, or at least the initial substitute bill, had 0.5%, which at the cost of $40 million. And then this body voted to increase it to a full percentage, which would add another $40 million, or a total of $80 million. So your source of money to find for GMH is there. That is the real money, which GMH is crying out for. They're crying out to pay for their electrical panels, to pay for the IT infrastructure, to pay for the EHR system, to pay for supplies, to pay the vendors. I mean, are we willing to put that on our heads here, that the hospital is going to be shut down because the priorities of this body is not the health care, the one local hospital that we have, government hospital? We're trying to bank on a fund where there's no money that exists in it. Here we are, we have trouble finding money to close the gap on the hospital, and yet this body moves the other direction and making it harder. Yeah, as much as I want to support this amendment, I think the source of funding obviously does not exist. I mean, they need the money today, or yesterday, in fact. Pay those power bills, water bills, fix the electrical system, the roofing, right? Unfortunately, we're put in this position where we have to fight, which is not necessary, to fight over this when the money does exist. So, thank you.
Excuse me, Senator, and we are going to hear all the bills in this stack, or amendments in this stack. And we can pass all of them to include this one. On the amendment, I'm taking a 1-minute recess. Committee of the Whole is back in order. Senator Matanani, you are recognized to close on your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I just want to say I wasn't here in the 36th, I wasn't here in the 37th Guam legislatures, but I am here today. And what was presented to me, what's in the governor's fiscal year budget request, the EBR, it mentions this public law, 3656. It mentions this $35 million. In the other public law, 3654, it mentions this $35 million. So what's in black and white to me today shows that there is $35 million. It's somewhere, it's out there. We just apparently need to find out where it went. So I just take such great offense and really shocked because when I was in the media covering the legislature, there were certain senators that stood out to me that I thought I had so much respect for. But now being in here and seeing the way they treat their colleagues, and me for that matter, I mean, my amendment, I'm hearing political gains, fake money, phantom appropriation, not just in this amendment, but even my previous amendment regarding DOC. I felt like this particular senator was just trying to mess with me. And yes, I am a new senator, but I am trying to do my best. And I saw this opportunity, I saw the $35 million, and I introduced the amendment, and I really hope that my colleagues will support it, and I hope the people of Guam will see who is really playing political games. Thank you.
Thank you. On the amendment, is there any objection? There's been an objection.
Sorry, point of inquiry, there were two amendments that are very similar. Which one?
No, this is just the amendment that I read out that's being considered here.
Because there was one that was for 25 million strictly for CIP, IT, and then 10 million.
That amendment wasn't proffered.
Okay.
She's just going with the primary amendment.
Okay, thanks.
There's an objection. You want to call for the vote?
Yes, I'll call for
Roll
the
call?
vote.
Okay.
Roll call.
There's roll call. Call for roll call. 2 roll calls. 3 roll calls. Clerk, take the roll.
Vice Speaker Atta. Vice Speaker Atta, yea. Senator Barnett. Senator Barnett, nay. Speaker Blas. Speaker Blas, yea. Senator Borja. Senator Borja, yea. Senator Calvo. Senator Calvo, pass. Senator Duenas. Senator Duenas, yea. Senator Gumatao. Senator Gumatao, yea. Senator Lujan. Senator Lujan, yea. Senator Muñoz Barnes. Senator Muñoz Barnes, pass. Senator Parkinson.
If my vote will help this money exist, I vote yes.
Senator Parkinson, yea. Senator Perez. Senator Perez, nay. Senator Salas Matanani. Senator Salas Matanani, yea. Senator San Augustine. Senator San Augustine, pass. Senator Taidagui. Senator Taidagui, pass. Senator Terlahi.
No, and I'd like to raise a point of order again, Mr. Speaker, that there is no money in this fund. Everyone has concurred in that, the professionals, and we should not be voting on amendment with no real funds. That was your rule.
Thank you, Senator Terlahi. Please proceed with the roll.
Senator Terlahi, nay. Senator Calvo. Senator Calvo, yea. Senator Munya Barnes. Senator Munya Barnes, pass. Senator San Augustine.
My vote is no, under the pretense that I don't believe the money exists. Thank you. Otherwise, if it does, then it would have been yes, but it's no.
Senator San Augustine, nay. Senator Tydegui. Senator Tydegui, pass. Senator Munya Barnes.
On the belief, based on what we worked on in the past, there's no money there. I'm going to pass again.
Senator Munya Barnes, pass, nay. Senator Tydegui. Senator Tydegui, pass, nay.
On the Senator Montanani amendment, there are 9 yeas, 6 nays. The amendment passes. Senators, moving along.
Mr. Chair, are we going to excuse the panel?
Let me ask the body. I know there's other appropriation measures in here. This is what happened to me last time. I didn't call them, and then they were like, where are they? So does the body need OFB or BBMR on the, okay, yes, then we will not excuse them, Senator, because Senator Terlahi has said yes. Okay. So this amendment is TMT L22 P40. Senator, I'm going to take, this is the Therese Terlahi amendment. I'm going to take 1 minute recess because according to the analysis, the fund balance of today has not have enough funds. So let's go speak to OFB together. We are in recess. Once again, we face an amendment that is appropriating $10 million against a fund balance of $3.9 million. So I'm going to rule this amendment out of order.
Again,
The
Mr.
next-
Chair,
yes.
at least there is money in this account, point of order, and you just ruled an amendment in order that had zero funds in that account, zero. This one has 3.9 million or 4 million according to OFB yesterday and today. And although that would be consistent, I have a future amendment for, all right. Yesterday, you know, Mr. Chair, Again, it feels like a game. Yesterday, you announced there was 4.5, and we appropriated the 5. And and then you said there was 4 left. And now today, can we take a 1-minute recess, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I'd like to, because I don't think I said any of that. 1-minute recess. Committee of the Whole is back in order. So Senator I believe
Yes.
we've come to some consensus because you have other amendments that
Yes.
have close, so,
Since this month, Mr. Chair, yes, so this was introduced or put in the drive before any money went to Simon Sanchez, so I'm going to withdraw this one amendment for the 10 million.
okay, thank you. So the next amendment is SSM L21 P40. Senator Sabrina Salas Montanani, I have to rule this out of order. This is calling for 17.5, and it does not have a funding source. There's inadequate funding for that. The next amendment is also, once again, from Senator Terlahi. Notwithstanding provision law 10 million hereby from fiscal 2024. I'm going to rule this out of order because there's no fund balance available to.
Can you just confirm the fund balance for the 2024 excess, or what the amount we're going with for 2024 excess right now today?
2024 excess is appropriated in the miscellaneous provisions, 10 million for GVB and 5.8 million for the hospital.
That's 23 excess.
No. What's the 24? I thought it was zero because we appropriated this. That's what Vanessa said, because we appropriated the. Huh?
Yes, Senator, just to answer your question, the fund balance for FY24 is $195,822.
So I'll rule this out of order based on its recalling for $10 million appropriation. Okay, and then another one here is, it is Amendment SSM P40, 40. Senator Montanani, I'm sorry, but the 2025 revenues do not have $10 million, and I'm going to rule it out of order.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
can we just, because I keep track of what's going on, the last one is for 10 million, right, from unaudited fiscal year 24, correct? That's the one that you ruled out of order, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and then this one now that in front of us that you're ruling out of order is from SSM. And
Yes.
this is for 13,100?
No, I just did the 10 million. Now let's go by the number
okay.
because it's better to do it that. I mean the description SSMP 40. That's asking for $10 million 2025 excess revenues. Okay, and so
There's
that's
two.
out of order.
I'm sorry, it's a little bit confusing because there's so many with 10 million. you
I
know?
understand. So that's why, Senator, I read the top of the. I'll do it once again. This is SSMP 40. This amendment is ruled out of order. It's calling for $10 million against the 2025 net projected unobligated, and also to put $200,000 for the nurse recruitment initiatives.
Okay.
It's out of order.
Okay, and then the next one you just ruled out of order is
The
TMT?
The next one is,
That was
yeah,
prior?
yeah,
That was
so-
prior?
right. So I'm going to be efficient. I'm going to gavel down everything that I've ruled out of order, and then I'll do it one by one. So the next amendment also, and I've talked to the author because she has a subsequent amendment that's very close to the current fund balance, so I'm going to be okay with that. This is TMT L22 P40 Roman numeral III. It's 4.5 million against the 3.9. I'll rule it out of order, but there is another one that is going to have enough funding for it. This is out of order. Now, this is in order for TMT. This is TMT L22 P40 Roman numeral I, Roman numeral 5. Senator Terlahi, you may motion and move this amendment and introduce it.
Mr. Chair and colleagues, so this amendment is to appropriate it, I'll read it, $7,014,994 is hereby appropriated from the general fund for the Guam Memorial Hospital accounts payables. This money, the next part of the amendment, comes from withholding taxes, interest, and penalties that is increased by the exact same amount, the 7 million, up to 315,685,559. So this again would come at no harm to anything else in the budget. It's the reason I'm proposing to increase this withholding is actually at the recommendation of BBMR during revenue projections. It's because the FY projected amount for withholding was 297 million, but what they've actually received is 320 million. That's a $22.6 million difference. In other words, we've received more withholding by 22.6 million than they predicted last year. So the governor predicted for 26 that we should be able to bring in 315 million at least, which is a little less than the 320 million that we're actually bringing in right now, but it's higher than what the bill currently reads at 308 million. It's about this amount, 7,014,994 higher. So again, so for the withholding, it's been said that we can comfortably predict that we will make at least 315. And so to not appropriate that, especially when GMH is in dire need, I think it's a waste of our efforts, and it will leave that money hanging and not used or potentially used somewhere else. So I'm advocating that if this money is going to come in, and it looks very highly likely, maybe one of the more predictable accounts that we are predicting today, that we should put it towards GMH. And we can do that by this amendment, by increasing the withholding amount and putting it straight into GMH, real money. So I ask my colleagues for their support on this. And again, you know, we put a little bit more towards GMH in the pharmaceutical fund for during FY26. If the business privilege taxes are higher than what we predict, they'll get a little bit more. We tried to put in some BPT, at least a part of that rollback, leave a little bit of that in and give that to GMH, but that's not, we haven't been successful with that amount of revenue so far. So this, again, is a very solid source of revenue, and the need is very real. So I ask my colleagues to support this, and as I have just a little time, I just want to know, so DOA, do you have any qualms of anything I've said about the prediction for the withholding for FY26? That do you still expect at least 315 million and that we are tracking 320 million in FY25?
Senator, we're all making different estimates here. I wouldn't quarrel with that estimate.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Masi, on the amendment, anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Terlahi, Senator Tidegui, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did, there was made a comment earlier about how, if the pharmaceutical fund, it's by a certain percentage, right, that comes in. So I want to ask, I guess, DOA, in prior budget bills, when we exceeded the revenues or the BPT, we exceeded it, did the hospital receive that percentage amount every year when it exceeded the BPT?
The appropriation stopped when we reached the appropriation.
So in the event there's more funding in BPT, then you don't make that adjustment and give a certain percentage to the pharmaceutical fund. So that's what I'm to believe now, right?
That was the case in prior years. I understand you're reconsidering it for this particular budget.
Is it in the budget bill?
No, but
okay, so if we were to put this in the budget bill, when it comes to the BPT, on like any excess revenue above that's been appropriated, that meets the law of a certain percentage, and it's in the budget bill, then you would have to follow with that budget bill law, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Just Masi, Senator Tidegui. On the amendment, Senator San Agustin, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, as I look at the amendment, is that found on page 8 of our substitute budget bill? Is that what we're referring to? Page 8 on line, to amend section 3 of chapter 1 of the bill, which is page 8? I just need to reconfirm.
Does the author yield?
Yeah, I'm just trying to follow the numbers so that I can see, because it says 308.
Yes, so the amendment, I'm putting the funding source and the appropriation in the same page so that we all can adopt it together, because I don't want to appropriate without the funding source. So it's all together here. It's, yes, so page 8 is the funding source. It's the increase in the withholding, and page 40 is the appropriation to GMH.
I know, I understand that part. I'm just trying to follow that. Where did the 7 million come from? Because at the end of this document, page, let me see what page that would be. Page, total general, page 9, it gives us a total amount of money. So I'm just trying to make sure that we're tracking correctly.
Right, so this would, if I,
Yeah, that's the one they sent me, but the only reason why I'm asking this, Mr. Chairman, is because as I look at the substitute, and I know we had all the different slides provided by everybody, I wish we had incorporated then, because now we're going back to a chapter that was closed. I just want to make sure we're in sync. I support giving GMH. Don't get me wrong, I support it, but I just want to make sure we're in sync, and I support the amendment, okay? If the money exists, give it to GMH. I just want to make that clear. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Jesus Masi, Senator San Augustine. Senator Barnett, you recognize.
So Joseph Masi, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to rise in support of the amendment. It is unfortunate, however, that the Guam Memorial Hospital was very, very clear that they need a whole lot more than $7 million, but we're in this difficult position again. Just to reiterate my theme and for this budget session, we're in a difficult position of not being able to fund critical services that benefit the people of Guam, whether that's in education, healthcare, and in some ways public safety, as we've seen appropriations for the new prison didn't even make the bill. And the reason why we're acting with our backs against the wall is because we've chosen to, again, prioritize first order of business, 1% total reduction of the business privilege tax over the next 2 fiscal years to the tune of $80 million. And again, just to state for the record, it has never been an issue of being flat out opposed to providing business privilege tax relief reductions to the businesses. It's been more about a targeted, tiered approach that doesn't jeopardize critical public services in the form, in exchange for this corporate tax payoff. I think we've argued very clearly that the biggest of the biggest corporations in Guam are going to benefit from this, and it is absolutely coming at the cost of our public schools. They communicated very, very clearly. They communicated it's going to be disastrous. The Guam Memorial Hospital and their employees were banking on a $35 million appropriation on top of their already short budget request. And I'm not sure if this is just about being able to put out a press release that you guys gave GMH $35 million that doesn't exist. But again, the reason why we're having these difficult conversations, the reason why it is heated in this hall, is because there's a very clear philosophical difference in the arguments that we're presenting relative to the BPT reduction. And we've chosen again to prioritize this tax reduction at the expense of the public schools, the public hospital, the people of Guam's tax refunds, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on, and I'm sure we'll hear more as we get deeper into the agencies on this budget. So I commend the author for this second attempt to adjust this number, because it's real money that actually exists. And I don't think we're here to pretend. We shouldn't be here to provide false hope to the people of Guam, to provide false hope to the employees of the Guam Memorial Hospital who saw the circular that said GMH is going to be hit hard, who saw the circular that said, but don't worry, because we have help from the legislature. And it's very clear that that help is going to end up being more of a hurt. So I thank the people of Guam for watching this session, and even with the YouTube stream going off and on, they're jumping from the TV to the YouTube. But no matter what screen they're watching on, they're seeing the same thing that many of my colleagues are seeing. Inconsistency in the application of the rules. Appropriations from a fund that is a fairy tale. Doesn't exist. $35 million that aren't even dollars at all. And so I urge the support of my colleagues to give this little bit that we can to the Guam Memorial Hospital and ask for further reconsideration of the BPT reduction so that we can fund critical services that are absolutely going to be impacted so that the people of Guam can go to a hospital that's a little bit better. Mr. Chair.
Masi, on the amendment, anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Sabrina Salas-Montanani, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak and just say there's a lot of things that have been said out here on the floor about false hope. I want to ask the people of Guam, if they're watching, to listen now for fake leadership. You know, when I first came on board, I went to the Guam Memorial Hospital, I did a tour, spoke with the nurses, the doctors, the employees at the Guam Memorial Hospital, and one thing that they said were they were surprised. You're here? Even other senators that toured, Senator Calvo, the Vice Speaker, he was there. Same thing, Senator Vispora, we're surprised you guys are here. We haven't seen senators come down to the Guam Memorial Hospital to see what we go through every single day. And like I said earlier, I'm a new senator. I'm surprised the previous oversight chair, because that's what they were saying, hadn't bothered to come down to the Guam Memorial Hospital to see firsthand. Heard about that circular, right? I got that circular. They sent it directly to me. And when you read it, yes, it says that they're working together with myself, with Sean, and with Senator Vince. And that amendment that was passed earlier, and all the amendments that you will see proffered by myself, are done in concert with the Guam Memorial Hospital because I am listening to their needs. That is what leadership does. Good leadership. Thank you.
On the amendment, anybody else wish to speak? Senator Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to point out that this amendment will definitely complement the amendment that just passed regarding CIP. As was spoken yesterday in the late evening, CIP is additional on top of what is needed for the operations. And we also heard that they had a huge impact when their electronic billing system went down, where they even had to catch up with the billing. And so their estimates for collections wasn't meeting the target just yet, in addition to having denials for their claims. So there's definitely a lot of hurdles that GMH has to go over to try to close this gap. And you know, this amendment would help support the operations and through accounts payable. This is critical because we know we've heard stories about how the staff is bringing in supplies because the inability or the shortfalls that exist in GMH today to purchase these things and to pay their vendors on time. And so I think that this amendment will go to help our people that are in the hospital, help not only, will help the community in general and the businesses. So this is a win-win-win amendment for all. So it's not going to cover the full gap. They asked for 28 million from the general fund. As of now, we passed 22 million, so this 7 million will help close that gap that they asked for. But they also asked for an additional general fund request of, on top of the 28 million, they asked for 21 million. So whatever we can do to close that gap for the operations, and if we, I hope that we can do that with this amendment. And again, we're collecting above what is listed in the OFB budget. And so to me, it's a need. It's not a want. It's a huge need that we need to address. And I ask my colleagues to support this amendment. Thank you.
On the amendment, anyone else wish to speak? Senator Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to echo some of the comments that one of the previous speakers made, that there's this coming a little bit of a theme of this budget session, that we have significant problems and shortfalls in education, healthcare, and in some ways public safety, and not enough resources to handle it. And even in situations where we aren't reducing the BPT, if we just stayed status quo, we would still be having significant revenue shortfalls adequate to solve the problems we're having. And there's more. There are more things out there that could impact us beyond our island shores. Just in the big beautiful bill, there are income tax reliefs and deductions that we are now dealing with newly. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on car loan interest, extra deductions for seniors. All of these things are going to put additional stressors on our ability to deliver goods. Our problems year over year are increasing in number and in price tag. And that is kind of a function of our world economy, with inflation and the cost of living and the cost of services and countrywide, if not global, workforce shortages across all sectors, making wages competitive all around, leading to higher cost for government, higher cost for services, higher cost for everything. We cannot be in this mindset where we want to go back to 2016 taxes in 2026, when we have different levels of problems. We want to go back to these revenues in 2016. But we're still going to have 2026 prices. The cost of our goods are still going to get more expensive, and all we've done is reduce our revenues and made it so that we've had to basically triage our government. You know, I hear the phrase, rob Peter to pay Paul, but I think of it as just cannibalizing. I know what it's like to work in a poor federal district and had to make do cannibalizing other parts to make do in others. And it's very hard. But when we start cannibalizing other parts of our government, you know, looking into the new hospital fund to pay for the current hospital fund, it just shows how dire our need is for revenue and how premature the idea of rolling back our revenues is. In the ideal world, we would pay 0% in taxes. In fact, our government should pay us. But like we've said earlier in this body, no amount of wishing can bend reality to our will. As much as I respect this august body, there are limitations to what we can do. We cannot make federal funds magically appear in accounts where they're not supposed to be. And we cannot cut $40 million worth of revenue and not expect to feel significant pain. So I support this amendment, but I ask my colleagues to really think through our revenue decisions as we go further in these conversations. Because we need more money. Even at the 5%, we're still short. And we got more federal pressures coming into us. And so let's think long and hard. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Ms. Masi. On the amendment, anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Terlaw, you recognize.
Ms. Masi. Okay, again, the amendment before us is to give an additional $7 million approximately to GMH from increasing withholding taxes. And you know, this is not about individuals or opinions on individuals. It's really just, we need to take a look at the numbers, because despite visits to the different agencies or buildings, the bill that came out of the committee still lacked funds for Guam Memorial Hospital. In fact, it put it below what we got in FY25, or what GMH received in FY25, which was a huge $27 million increase from what it received in FY24. Because that's what our effort has been, is to increase the funding for GMH while we are waiting for a new hospital to be built, so that people don't die without supplies, and that nurses who begged us to change the management can see that one day, that we are going to act to do that. The bill, as came out of committee, underfunded the Simon Sanchez High School building, the Rainy Day Fund, Department of Education, the Guam Cancer Trust Fund. But GMH in particular, they told us they needed $28 million more than what's in the bill for payroll. They needed $29.3 million more than what's in the bill for CIP projects, for improvement projects. They needed $25 million more for an accounts payable over 90 days that is growing and growing, and that cannot be met or taken care of with the current bill. So this $7 million, of course, is not enough to take care of them, but I'm just trying to find all the real money that we can find to give them for their very, very real problems that affect real people, real working people, real sick people. And so I ask my colleagues, because this amendment brings more money to GMH, It harms nobody. It takes money from nobody else and can give it to them. And according to all the experts before us, it will be real. I ask for their support. Let's give GMH a little bit more so that they can juggle with what they've got, and hopefully, as we continue, bring them even more. Again, I sincerely ask my colleagues to put aside personalities. I don't care whether they're mad at me at GMH or anybody's mad at me for doing oversight hearings over and over, for trying to give them more money than they ever requested, for trying to make sure that we have a management system that is recommended by various task forces. I'm fine. All I care about is we know the facts, we know the problems, and we need to resolve those. And put the personalities aside and let's just resolve those. So please, this amendment will give them at least $7 million more, and I ask my colleagues for their support. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Point of information, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm just curious, and I'm sorry, I mean, if I'm out of order, please let me know, but I'm just curious, because I'm sitting here trying to look at it and understand the increase in withholdings when I thought we were assuming that collections were going to go down because of the deductions, increase in tax deductions. Can it be confirmed that we're expecting the withholdings to go up?
On a point of information, I'll ask OFB to discuss that.
Yes, Senator. Again, how we derived at the amount that we're recommending in the bill was going back 3 years. And every year, yes, it was increased and it was above basically what we projected and estimate for each of those years. However, the rate that we notice on what is being collected for FY25 saw kind of I believe it's like a 39, almost 40% decrease over what we were collecting in the previous years. So although we are still above the projected amount, the amount that we were above over the last 3 years is not consistent of what we're experiencing this year. That's why I didn't use solely just FY25 as my guideline. I went back a few years back, which showed a lower level, and that's basically how I derived at my number. Whereas OFB is more on the optimistic side and wanting to, I guess, their estimate feels that they're going to collect more, even though there is a reduction in percentage of what we've been collecting over the last 3 years versus what we're collecting this year. That's why my number is lower.
Thank you for that question, Senator Borja. Just to remind the body, in FY24, the withholding adopted level was $273 million. The adopted level for FY25 is $297 million. We put in an executive budget request at $315 million. Our CRER is tracking FY25 collections at $330 million. So we're being additionally conservative in what it is that we believe the withholding should be. We're tracking 330. We're only asking the body to adopt 315, which is the delta between what it is that you currently have and what Senator Talahi is proposing as an upward adjustment to withholding. So when we did the public hearing for Bill 11, I did mention to the body how withholding taxes has been the stellar performer throughout the entirety of the 5 years that I recapped. And I believe that adjusting the withholding upwards is a prudent move. Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Senator Borja?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. On the amendment, are there any objections? Seeing and hearing none, amendment passes. I'm going to take a 1-minute recess. the legislature is back, the committee of the whole is back in order. So there are two amendments for the same appropriation, calling on the 2025 unobligated. So they cannot be accepted because it would be over the amount of revenue. So on TMT L22 P40V, I'm going to rule that out of order.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
This is the one you said you were going to address because we put it down to 4 million. It's different than the other one. It goes to a different place, so this one passes. Of course, there will be no more funds for the next one.
Yeah,
But we have to do them one by
ruling
one.
it out of order. I'm ruling it out of order.
Mr. Chair, this is the one,
Because you have two.
I know, but we haven't done any yet. So
Right.
there's still funds for
So
this
they're the
one
same.
amendment. The one amendment, there is still funds. We just have to do them one by one.
Take a 1-minute recess. We're back in order. You may proceed.
Sizos Masi, Mr. Chair. This amendment, colleagues, is notwithstanding any other provision of law, $4 million is hereby appropriated from the net projected unobligated fiscal year 2025 general fund revenue balance for the Guam Memorial Hospital. I think it's self-explanatory. This goes in general to the Guam Memorial Hospital. It's from FY25 excess revenues, the same funding source that we used earlier for Simon Sanchez High School and the Rainy Day Fund and the Guam Cancer Trust Fund. And so this is almost the balance, I guess. We're trying to get the balance that's left. So if I could, yesterday it was announced it was 4, but if I could get the fund balance from OFB that they want to recognize, I can adjust this if it's something close. If OFB can confirm.
Yes, Senator, I mean, again, it depends. If the amendment goes through, I can give you an actual balance to address this particular amendment if you want to do that. So I believe you have a previous amendment.
Who, me?
So it's 3.9.
Okay, thank you. Would that be acceptable to OFB to amend this to 3.9?
Well, the amount right now, the excess balance is $3,968,554.
All right, thank you. Does DOA or BBMR have any objection that we appropriate FY25 general fund excess in the amount of $3.9 million?
From our understanding, that will take the cumulative amount of the back-of-the-napkin estimate that I provided ahead of the CRER coming out officially on the 20th. So if you're going to take every single dollar that from the number that I provided earlier, I guess that's okay.
What's the balance? What are you predicting the balance to be?
I provided the body a back-of-the-napkin estimate, which is what I believe you're using because it's 33 million, and you've done 16, you've done 10, you've done something for the Cancer Trust Fund. So if you're taking that amount that I provided and you want to zero out what the excesses are estimated to be, then at least you have a number to work from.
All right, I'm just relying on the information we're giving when we were talking about those other amendments. So yeah, I'm going to just make an amendment to change the 4 to 3.90000.
On the amendment to the amendment, any objections? Amendment carries.
Thank you, colleagues. Again, that's my opening on the
On the amendment, anyone wish to speak? Speaker Blas, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, as much as, I appreciate the exercise that we're going through, I must respectfully object to it on the basis of, last year when we basically put together the FY budget, the budget for this fiscal year, there was a provision that we had placed, that we provided that when we reach a certain point in the excess revenues, that this body saw it fit and it was necessary that we provide that return of the excess to the community through business development or assistance programs. I recognize the need or the desire to be able to provide the funding. But such is the exercise that we had went through when we were talked about the $35 million. Are we going to do that? Then what do we do a budget bill for? What do we put provisions in there for? What do we spend weeks on end debating and deliberating amongst ourselves for? If down the road, we're just going to ignore it. We want to berate the very source of revenues, the very source that we obtain our revenues from, that we collect our taxes from. We want to berate them. In fact, we want to even say that we're fattening them up. And we saw this coming. We saw this kind of argument coming for years. But nobody wanted to listen, except for the few of us. Then when it hits us, we're going to deny it. We're going to ignore it. We'll all say we can't do that. Let's go back after them. So, again, on the basis of we made this commitment to the community. It was agreed on by the executive branch. There was no line item veto. There was no cause for concern by anybody, because it was the right thing to do. And now that we have that opportunity, and we're going to have that opportunity, I'm not going to lie. You see, everybody sees it in the drive. To be able to provide that assistance so that we can gain more revenue. Because if we have to continue to rely on where we're getting it now, we're losing that stock, we're losing that inventory of areas that we can gain revenue. So let's build new ones. And that's what this money was supposed to be for. Amongst other things. So, I understand the need. I understand the desire for it. But I also have to stand by something that we as a body had agreed on. And I respectfully object to the amendment. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Just Masi, Mr. Speaker. On the amendment, anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Senator Barnett.
Sujasmasi, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to the people of Guam. Thank you for watching this session. It's quite a good one. I noticed there's a lot of putting words into the mouths of colleagues, because I don't recall anyone of my colleagues who have opposed the implementation of the business privilege tax reduction throwing around a lot of these insults. In fact, the record will very clearly show that we fought hard for our small businesses. We fought hard for a meaningful implementation of this business privilege tax reduction that would have benefited the little guys, the small businesses, the ones that are struggling, and would have left the larger corporations to pay their fair share. That's how the whole system works. And now we're in this position where we have these agencies coming in, and specifically in the case of the Guam Memorial Hospital, lives are at stake. And we're stuck here trying to amend the bill and offer whatever small pittances we can give our islands-only public hospital while we hand out $80 million in tax relief, which that relief should have been applied more judiciously. And we had no heads up going into this budget process that they were going to pull a fast one on the people of Guam. Well, that's where we are today. And so again, it just goes back to the priorities. If we are going to hand out this $80 million tax relief spread out over 2 fiscal years, and that is going to jeopardize critical public services that are already struggling and suffering, then we have no choice but to look for money where we can find it and to look for funding sources that the colleagues can agree on. And so if we're talking about using this $3.9 million to go to the Guam Memorial Hospital or to your favorite nonprofit, let's not continue to make bad choices on the backs of the people of Guam. GMH was very, very clear. They were very clear. And we shouldn't break our arm patting ourselves on the back because we appropriated fake money for the very, very real problems at the Guam Memorial Hospital. We should work together to give them as much real money as we can. And after the corporate tax payoff, there isn't much real money left. There isn't much real money left for the people of Guam's tax refunds. There isn't much real money left for the Guam Department of Education, who very clearly communicated here that passing this bill as is will be disastrous. We heard from the Guam Memorial Hospital just last night. Critical supplies. Bring your own linens. Bring your own catheter. There's just a lot of talk in the campaign. If we want to talk about campaign promises, let's talk about the false promises that were delivered to the people of Guam. about making meaningful changes in education, public safety, and healthcare. They should have just been honest that their priority was going to be jeopardizing critical public services in exchange for helping some of the biggest businesses on our island. And that is with all due respect to those businesses, Sijulis Masi, but this debate is really about public good coming at the expense of immense private gain. Sijulis Masi, Mr. Chair.
Sijulis Masi, Senator. On the amendment, anyone wish to speak on the amendment? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Tulay, you may close. Oh, Senator Tadigui, excuse me.
I know, it looks kind of dark back here. Nobody's here. I'm here. I just have a question to ask. It was spoke earlier about what the balance is, and I'm hearing different numbers. First I'm hearing 31, now I'm hearing 33. So, Mr. Chair, can you please tell me what the number we are going off of that is giving you a balance, that we are following a balance out of things that were appropriation? Is it 31, 33? What is the balance?
We'll go with OFB and BBMR on that.
And Steve, I'm sorry, Steve, before you get started, this is before we made the appropriations to Simon Sanchez Cancer Care and the Rainy Day Fund.
As of the June 30th, 2025, the balance we started out with was $30,928,679.
Okay, 30,
$30,928,679.
So I heard earlier about a 33. Is that the latest on the CRER with regard for July?
It's more prudent to stick with the June number.
Okay.
It's a published number.
Okay. Well, that's really all the question I just wanted to make it clear that we are working off a $30,928,679 and not 33 as mentioned earlier, because the numbers get passed back and forth. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I had. I just wanted to know that number.
Sijulis Masi. Senator Tulay, you may close.
Thank you. So I just want to confirm again, OFB, you say this amount, 3.9 million can be covered by the excess, right?
Yes, Senator. Again, I'll be specific so there's no confusion. That the balance right now, considering all the amendments that have been proffered today, as we speak, at 5:15 p.m., the balance is $3,968,554.
All right, thank you so much. Again, so this is coming from that amount that's left in the balance that OFB is calculating, 3.968. I'm appropriating, or by this amendment, 3.9 million. I'm not sure how this hurts any business. This is from the excess revenues from FY25, unappropriated. So we're just taking that money, same as we did, to pay for Simon Sanchez, to pay for the Rainy Day Fund, to pay for the Guam Cancer Trust Fund, and to give this mere $3.9 million that's left to the Guam Memorial Hospital. I wish it was much higher. Maybe in August we'll be surprised to see a bump, but regardless, for now, this is the amount. And again, by this bill, businesses are getting a $40 million tax breaks, and by next year, $80 million tax breaks. So I don't know how this amendment's hurting them when GMH's needs are $28 million for operations, $29 million for CIP projects, $25 million for accounts payable, $82 million in total. And we're giving them less in the bill than we gave them last year. So I'm asking again to please just give them what's left in this. This is the excess revenue fund that we use for Simon Sanchez. And there's 3.9 left, and let's give that to GMH. Jesus Masi, colleagues.
Masi, Senator, there was an objection. All in favor of the amendment, please indicate by raising your hand. Amendment fails. Colleagues, we only have one more amendment in the drive. Senator San Agustin,
Oh, this is mine.
would you?
Mr. Chair.
No. Oh, excuse me. That's right. So oh no, it did not pass. So this second amendment is moot point because there was an objection and you didn't get the votes to pass. So
Right, but it's a different amendment.
no, it's to appropriate, because this is exactly what you said. It's to appropriate it in 90 days. And so that is not.
90 days?
Yeah, that's what you said. You said this
No, no.
amendment supports.
No,
Senator,
it's for-
the amendment is out of order.
Mr. Chair, this is a different amendment.
TMT L22
And there is
P40
funds.
V5.
There are funds.
I'm ruling the amendment out of order.
Mr. Chair, point of order. Just please, we don't
We
need
are
to
in
fight
recess.
about this.
We're back from recess. We will recess until 7 o'clock tonight. We're taking our dinner break.